The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the romantic love interest that is also a reporter, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are he, him as well.
Oh boy, yeah, so...
This is a movie.
It's something.
It is something. Alright, so real talk. This, at times, looks like one of the cheapest movies we've dealt with, and then at other times, it looks pretty good for the time. I'm never going to say any of the special effects are cutting edge at all, because that would be a lie.
Yeah, so this is made by Adamson, who's kind of like known for making like super low budget, just trash drive-in kind of movies.
Oh yeah.
I think this is probably his biggest movie in terms of budget and cast and everything. Usually it was just like, you know, his friends basically. There was a documentary that came out about him a year or so ago that's definitely worth checking out. It's called like Flesh and something.
Okay.
I don't remember, but it's pretty interesting. But yeah, most of the, you know, like in this case, I guess we should, to talk about the cast, Judith is played by his wife, Regina Carroll. But I think in most of his films, it was her plus all their friends. And this time, instead, they kind of pulled a Tarantino and like hired a bunch of like washed up actors and gave them like one last chance, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's also rough that this is Lon Chaney's, is it his penultimate movie or pretty close to it?
He made 3 movies this same year, and those were his last movies. I'm not sure which order he did them in.
Yeah, because another one is actually starring one of his fellow actors in this movie, which is Russ Tamblyn, who is alumni at the Frankencast, War of the Gargantuas.
Yep, exactly. In this, he plays like this like punk teenager named Rico.
Is it brownface? Because it feels like he was going for brownface.
Yeah, I mean, the name Rico, you know, I mean, I feel like that leans like either, you know, Latinx or Italian, and I don't think he's either of those.
No. Russ Tamblyn, no. I don't think so. But it feels like he wasn't really trying. It's like he was told to do a thing, and he's like, I'm only going to do part of that thing because the rest of it's insulting. Which is good.
He's not trying too hard at that, which is, yeah, like you said, that's the right choice.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, you know, Lon Chaney Jr. made a couple movies this year and then would die, I think, 2 years later.
Right. What, 75?
Yeah. We also have another Frankencast alum. Dr. DeRay in this movie is J. Carroll Nash, who was Daniel from House of Frankenstein. So also a former castmate of Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah. That's amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is something. It sure is something.
Yeah, it's very different this go-around than it was in House of Frankenstein. And
this, our Dracula, I think this may be his one and only role.
I think so, yeah. It's like this and maybe one other short or something. I'm sure he was somebody that like Al Adamson knew.
And that's Zandor Vorkov, which, that's a great villain name.
Yeah.
Like, run with that.
Well, like, even the other, like, smaller roles, like, you have... There's, like, a little person carnival barker that I think you only get his name once, Grasbo.
Grasbo! Do you know who that fucking is? Master Blaster!
Yeah.
Well, Master specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's also from Todd Browning's Freaks, so he has some, like, old-school Universal horror ties as well.
Yeah, Angelo Rosito? Mm-hmm. Love it. I was so happy when I saw him. He does the most.
Yeah.
Do you know he had a movie that came out in 2018?
Really?
Yes. Even though he died in 1991, this movie was, I think, an Orson Welles production. Let me pull that up real quick.
Oh, it was like something Side of the Summer or
Other Side of the Wind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a long lost one. There was like a whole bit. I watched that when it came out because there was like that movie came out and there was like a whole documentary about like why it was like hung up for so long. And it was fine. Like, you know, it's not like as good as the classic Orson Welles stuff, but like it, you know, obviously it got hung up for decades for a reason. Like it was in, you know, purgatory with too many hands in the pot, basically.
Right, as was the case with I think a lot of his later stuff, except for Transformers. You gotta love it.
Yeah, and even there's I forget, Dr. Bauman, I think's his name, or something like that.
Yeah,
Beaumont. Dr. Beaumont is Forrest J. Ackerman, the founder of Famous Monsters of Filmland. So, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm sure, you know, Al Adamson knew him through the magazine and, like, gave him the cameo.
Fair enough.
But also, he was, Ackerman was a good friend of Don Bluth. So, all kinds of Frankencast connections.
It's a small Franken world after all. So, I've got a question. We also have a character by the name of Strange. So, what do we think so the original Doctor Strange appeared in 1963. Do we think this guy was a backdoor in Doctor Strange or a reference to that? Because he does talk about the occult.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And he looks an awful like the guy who played the original Doctor Strange in, like, what was it, the 80s?
Yeah.
That horrible movie.
That could be.
All kinds of connections here.
Yeah. And the most important cast member, there's a very cute puppy in this movie. And he lives through the movie, so don't worry.
Yep, this is one where the dog doesn't die. So it's the best. So do we also want to then get our warnings out of the way? Because there's a lot.
Yeah, when you get these 70s exploitation movies, there's usually a little bit of everything in this.
So we got some SA, we got gore. They say the term for Romani, right?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. Just general weird old school close to racist stuff. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of politics in this, and it's kind of hard to nail down what they're trying. There's hippies in it, and the way that they talk about the hippies are not. It's I don't know if Al Adamson distrusted hippies or if he's kind of poking fun at the culture at the time, but they're treated like they're gangsters or something.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really,
or they're a weird subgroup of humanity, not necessarily actual people.
Yeah, they don't really matter. Yeah, it's right. A strange, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. It's the 70s, right? The hippies were mostly the 60s, so by now hippies should be old news, but.
Well, it's also the early 70s, and also the what is it? How old is this guy? The writer and director, he's probably a little bit older. Mentally, he's probably still in the 60s.
Yeah,
it feels that way.
Sense.
But what else? Oh, we also get an amazing term that is gross, and I hate it. It's said by Sergeant Martin, who you absolutely know has a white hood and cloak somewhere in his closet. I'm just saying, because do we say that or do we skip this, where he actually brings up the white slavery bullshit?
Oh, yeah.
Do we skip that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he's implying that Samantha has kind of been trafficked or willingly trafficked or something.
Joni, because Samantha happens
Joni,
later.
that's right. Yeah. And he's not he's just she made her choices, whatever.
Right. That part of town has pushers and purveyors. What was it? Purveyors of we'll say WS. WS operators. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it means, but really, that's a fucking weird term, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that term still gets kind of thrown around today, it's just a normal thing, and it's by putting the color quantifier there. It's a problem.
So it's really just human trafficking in general, and you don't have to be hippies to do it.
Right.
Probably you're less likely to be doing it if you're a hippie, or more. I don't know that subculture.
Yeah.
So we might cut out this whole segment. Who knows?
No, I mean, I think it's definitely worth mentioning because it's and you, like you said, this does come from the mouth of like this shitty cop that I think we're supposed to hate. Yeah. So it makes sense for him to say something like this.
Yeah, he's ineffectual as many fathers / authority figures are. Which I mean,
yeah. For as much as he like this movie dislikes hippies, it dislikes this kind of authority even more. I would say.
Yeah, and that's why we like it, at least in that regard.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get this party started. We're starting off with some theremin music. That's a good sign, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. And the credits are kind of like just monochromatic stills from the movie of Dracula and Frankenstein.
Well, that and motherboards. Old, ancient-ass motherboards.
Yeah, just random like electrical equipment and everything. When the credits end, we're in a cemetery with a full moon. And it's like, this being low budget and everything, but like it's super dark and you can't really tell what's going on very well in this scene.
Right.
It is like, it's nighttime. It should be dark, but it should also, movies at night, they're still lit so that you can see. You just know that it's night.
They couldn't afford a lighting rig operator.
Yeah. So it's like, I think there's somebody with a flashlight kind of swinging around and you can see things occasionally, but it's a lot of just like darkness.
Right. We get our first shot of Dracula in this movie. Once again, as we said, played by Zandor Vorkov. But I thought he was a member of the Blue Man Group. Because that's exactly the color he was blue.
Yeah, I guess they're going with the whole Munsters coloration thing as well. You got a very blue Dracula and a very... Well, the Frankenstein's not even really green. He's just kind of like
moldy,
yellowy.
Yeah,
he just looks gross.
Yeah,
like old bread or something.
Right. It's either like some weird styrofoam that they put together or odd paper mache that they let mold.
Yeah. Yeah, the monsters, like the Frankenstein looks just lumpy and weird, and the Dracula is like, he's got a goatee and kind of like a little bit of a fro, not like a disco like curly hairdo. Like, they do not look like what you normally see as a Dracula and Frankenstein. But
this literally wanted me to like have a redo of Dracula 2000, where the Dracula was Surge from System of the Down. Tell me you didn't see that.
Yeah. You're not wrong. And yeah, we see him and like somebody has opened his crypt. Basically, that's how we see him. He's like laying in a coffin, and then he just immediately like pops out and attacks this groundskeeper and bites him. Right,
and we know he bit him because we have 2 red wet dots on the side of the groundskeeper's neck.
Right. And then we just cut to a carnival, which is strange because our last movie had a carnival right at the beginning as well.
Yeah.
But this is more like, it's like a Coney Island kind of vibe. I think it's West Coast, but it's like, docks and piers and that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be, Santa Monica?
Okay.
Seems like it.
So the carnival's taking place like on the boardwalk, and we have a girl who kind of walks down underneath, and it's like super foggy. She's just kind of like walking through like a sort of fake forest of boardwalk posts.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden someone decides they want to ask her a question. They want to ask her for a little head. You can cut that. But yeah, so they decapitate her.
And yeah, it goes rolling, and good old fashioned like cheap B-movie decapitation. And then it immediately just cuts to daylight at the Vegas Strip. So
that's amazing. That's a hell of a cut, right? We go from cemetery to axe murderer to daylight on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah. And it's just like somebody's driving around with a camera out the window. You're just kind of getting some like B-roll footage of the Strip.
Circa 1970s.
Yeah. Cut to, in one of the casinos, I guess, we've got a Vegas showgirl who's singing this song about like how she travels light, and it's this whole like kind of cabaret thing. She's like got big suitcases, and there's 2 guys with her that are singing back up and complaining about her heavy luggage and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and she carries exactly what she means to, and she travels light, right? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, they have to lug everything around for her. Ah-cha-cha-cha-cha. Anyway.
And then we'll find out that her name is Judith Fontaine.
Right. So this begs the question. So this was just the director, like, shooting a promo for his girlfriend, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. That's what I thought, too.
She knows how to sing, in case anybody wants to hire her for that.
She's a big star, this Judith Fontaine is, I tell you what.
And so when she finishes her number, she goes backstage, and she has received a telegram from the police telling her that her sister Joni has gone missing, which just immediately cuts to her talking to Sergeant Martin, the cop we mentioned earlier.
Played by Jim Davis, who's one of the kind of that guy actor if you're over a certain age. He did a lot of old Western TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's really shitty to her right away. Like, he's victim blaming about her sister, like, she made her choices, she put herself in this position, she's either ended up dead or trafficked, and it's her fault because she ran with tough crowds and stuff.
Right. What he says, obviously the thing we mentioned earlier, she moved in with a bunch of hippies at the beach, which that's weird, but maybe that was the thing that really happened, like just people randomly moving with I guess that's
like hippie commune kind of thing.
Yeah. Seems weird to me, but I'm I like to have my own space, I guess.
Yeah. But, like, Judith is interested in, like, going out to where she was and trying to figure out what happened to her sister, and Sergeant Martin is like, no, you need to stay here, you need to leave us alone, let the cops do their job, you don't need to get involved in this.
He says the grossest cop line I have ever fucking heard. Okay, you ready for this? He says, and I quote, "It took me 21 years to come to this answer, that when stuff like this happens, they want this to happen. Who wants to disappear?"
Yeah.
Like, that's gross.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, even... that's not true, but if it were true, you don't say that to her sister.
Right.
It's just awful on so many levels.
It's the worst. It is the absolute worst.
Yeah.
Like, if they want us to hate this guy, done. Mission achieved. Good job.
Yeah. And then from there, we cut back to the boardwalk, and this is where we see our Grasbo, the little person.
I love him so much.
He's a lot of fun. He's not in that many scenes, but he really, like, takes over when he's in a scene. Like, he's just a lot of fun. Like,
it's amazing. Like, I don't want to make this a joke about his stature, but, like, for as small as he is, he, like, takes up so much of the, like, presence. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, amazing.
Yeah, and if you look at, like, he has a crazy huge, like, IMDb page. Like, he has been in so much stuff. And there's a reason. I mean, like, he's really good at what he does.
Yep. I mean, of course, everyone loved him in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, I'm sure. So, or not, I don't know. I did.
And so here, like, he's using his charisma as a carnival barker, and he entices this young couple to go into, like, it's kind of like a haunted house, a kind of like a dark ride sort of thing, but it's like a walking thing, like, it's not a seated ride.
Right, and this would be Strange and Samantha.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get their names for a little bit, but yeah. So they kind of walk through, and it's a lot of, like, wax dummies, like, in nooses and in guillotines and stuff like that.
Man, I wonder if that guillotine's important.
It's definitely the Chekhov's item in this movie, for sure.
Chekhov's guillotine.
But they do end up, in one of the rooms, they meet a doctor. His name is Dr. DeRay, and he shows them this, like, masked man behind bars who's, like, growling and, like, acting really, like, animalistic.
Yeah, he's wearing, like, what, a Wolfman mask, it looked like?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder who that could be. Dr. DeRay, he's a wheelchair user, and he, like, goes over to where this man's behind bars and removes his mask, and it's Lon Chaney Jr., and suddenly he's just a completely different, his behavior just totally changes. He's like very calm.
Childlike almost.
Yeah. It's definitely like the gentle giant kind of thing.
Can I talk about another amazing line? Someone actually wrote this down, but while the couple is walking through the dark ride, or the haunted house, DeRay actually fucking says, Sometimes you must open your eyes to see things. Okay.
Most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just the human experience. Now, I think he's talking about like on a metaphysical level, but come on, that's ridiculous. Who wrote that down? Who said that this is okay?
Yeah. Strange and Samantha, they're having a good time, but it's time for them to go. They've got to go get ready for a protest because that's what hippies do, right? They own. That's all they know how to do is protest.
Right. Oh, and I fucking love, like, Samantha's like, yeah, what are we protesting? And Strange's like, I don't know. It's going to be fun, though. No, you don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that makes you like it seems like Al Adamson is definitely poking fun at the hippie movement. But it could either, like we said, he may just be a little old fashioned, or it may be that he's just kind of burned out on because by this time the hippie movement had kind of fizzled out and stuff. Right.
He could also be edgy and taking shots at everyone.
Yeah. After they leave, Dr. DeRay goes down into his lab. The Lon Chaney character follows him down, and we learn his name is Groton.
Right.
He's his assistant. Groton is just like a very unpleasant word.
Right? Like, who would... Groton.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And this is where we meet Groton's puppy.
Yay!
This is the tiniest little puppy, which is just great, with like big old Lon Chaney Jr. like cuddling up with this little puppy.
Yeah, it's adorable.
While Dr. DeRay is just doing like villain monologue shit. So the whole like villainous plot in this movie, it takes a while to like figure out what exactly is going on. He's got a woman on the table. This is Judith's sister, Joni, and he has reattached her decapitated head.
Right. And you know that because she has like weird scarring around her neck.
And he says something about like somehow the process of decapitating and then reattaching and reviving a person like causes the body to produce some sort of hormone or enzyme or something unique to that weird situation, and he's wanting to collect that to create this serum.
So I think that someone else had like partially written this because the idea is effectively that if you have a big enough shock, you will create this extra hormone or whatever that can have miraculous properties that can just fucking heal people for no reason. Even people that
it's
really...
like maybe like a fight or flight kind of thing. But over the course of the movie, I think we'll get 3 or 4 cases of this happening, and each time it's like a slightly different thing. And I couldn't tell if it was just he was collecting more and more of the same substance, or if each of these events was a slightly different substance, and he needed a little bit of each of them to make his serum. It's one of those like kind of MacGuffin-y things.
Yeah.
It's just like just go with it. You don't really need to think too hard about it.
Now, my read was it was getting progressively more, even though I feel like decapitation's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But so he has some of this serum. Groton lifts Joni up off of the slab and puts her in this like glass coffin.
Right, and we get the first shot of nudity, some breasts.
Yeah. There's plenty of that in this. So then Groton lays down on the slab, and DeRay injects him.
It's like he has to get his fix, right? Because he's like tapping the vein.
Yeah, and then he kind of turns like Mr. Hyde-ish, sort of. Like his hair gets disheveled. They put a little bit of makeup on his face to just make him look a little different, like it's not like a full makeup job. It's just like what you would buy at like Party City to kind of look spooky.
Right, and pretty much that's when we find out immediately that Groton is the axe murderer. Like if we didn't know. Yeah,
so pretty much that's the whole thing, is that Dr. DeRay uses Groton to recruit people.
That's a way to say it.
Or to enlist corpses, or whatever. To get more materials for his experiments.
Exactly.
I guess would be the way to say it.
No, I like recruit. That sounds.
And then so while Dr. DeRay's waiting for Groton to return, Dracula just appears.
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
And he's like, hey, I want to team up. Like, I think we can help each other out here.
Right, and I love that DeRay's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't control me.
Yeah, he's like, I've got a good thing going here. I don't need to complicate it. You're not necessary. And Dracula's like, no, we have a destiny. See, you're the last of the Frankensteins.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So I mean, if all the mad scientist stuff going on already hadn't kind of clued you into that, yeah. And he's like, I know that you have a bunch of people who cast you out from the like medical establishment, and you probably want revenge.
I can help you get that revenge.
Yeah, and it's even like implied that like these guys caused some sort of accident which led to DeRay being in a wheelchair. And Dracula's like, and beyond that, I have the original Frankenstein monster that your ancestors made.
Right. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and so that kind of convinces DeRay. He's like, okay, I guess we can team up, because I am interested in playing around with that monster.
Oh, of course, But I do love how Dracula's like, he shoots off some, well, I wouldn't say shoot off. An animator drew some fire coming out of his ring. Fire, quote unquote. And then he says, there will be a bloodbath unlike the world has ever seen before. The generic evil vampire shit.
Yeah.
By the way, did you notice that like they had him his voice echoing? I guess that was to sound ominous, but it failed.
Yeah, it's like a weird reverb effect that they do on his voice.
Just on him, though.
Yeah, it's very distracting. And he also says something that sort of indicates that maybe Dr. Beaumont, who is one of DeRay / Frankenstein's rivals, might have experimented on the Frankenstein monster previously.
Right, yeah. And, well, he caused the accident. This is my take on it. He caused the accident to Frankenstein, or DeRay, so that he could get the monster to himself effectively and make sure that DeRay couldn't interfere with his plans.
Gotcha, okay.
So that doesn't work out for him.
Yeah. Once DeRay agrees to join Dracula, we cut back to underneath the pier. We've got a young couple, laying in the sand on a beach blanket, kind of fooling around a little bit.
The guy could be 20 or 60, either one, anywhere in that age range.
Yeah, and it's the classic thing where like she keeps hearing a scary sound, and she's like, "Hang on, wait, we got to go check that out." And he's, he's interested in continuing to fool around.
Right.
So he's like, "It's nothing, honey. Don't worry about it.
It's your damn imagination." That awful imagination. He's like, "You're mine." Ugh, yeah. He's gross.
Yeah, the level of pressure that he's putting on here is definitely unpleasant.
Right, and then at the, like, when he gets fed up, he's like, "Damn it, we had to leave the party because you didn't want to be around people. Now that we're here, you just want to focus on your imagination." It's like, this guy is the grossest. He is the true villain of this movie.
Yeah, he sucks pretty bad.
Yeah, and luckily, I think he's going to get what's coming to him.
Yeah, Groton appears at that point and kills the guy, and then like it looks like he kills her as well. Like they're both just kind of laying there and there's blood splattered everywhere. But I think she just like faints is what's going on. I think we'll get a little bit more with her in a little bit. Yeah,
well, it doesn't matter. The doctor will put her back together again regardless.
And then we cut to footage from protests, which are probably, I would bet this is just real footage. Like, I doubt he, like, shot this whole thing.
Did you see what some of the signs said?
I saw something about cops. But
police brutality.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot's changed.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. It's a shame to think, it's like, what, 40, 50 years, and we're still in the streets protesting police brutality.
America.
And from the protests, we just like cut to inside a hippie dance club where Judith has arrived, and against Sergeant Martin's request, she is investigating what happened to her sister. Right.
And why? Okay, so we have a guy who's like, he's decked out in punk rock gear, right? Hanging with a bunch of hippies. Doesn't seem like that would work. But also, he has this massive fucking scar on his head.
Just like right across his forehead.
Right. I'm like, is he a Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's definitely a weirdly placed scar.
He is not. And as a matter of fact, he's nowhere beyond this scene. This is it.
Yeah. Because she's asking around about Rico. She wants to know if anybody knows who Rico is. She's got like a picture of Joni, and no one seems to know her. So that guy like plays dumb. He's like, "Oh, I've never heard of a Rico, and I don't recognize that picture.
What do you want?"
I'll be right back.
Yeah. She's like, "Oh, coffee," and he's like, he goes right to fucking Rico.
Immediately.
It's like all you had to do was watch the guy, and boom, you knew.
But Rico's like, here, and he hands him a little vial of drugs and is like, you can put that in her coffee.
Yeah. Basically, give her a Mickey.
Which immediately leads into her having like a psychedelic drug trip kind of like freak out scene.
Yeah, that's a wild scene because there's instances of her rolling around on a bed, hanging up in a web. And what was the other one? There's like 3. Oh, she was running on a beach. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like, this is the most, I'm not saying I've been on a few trips, but they have been nowhere, nothing like this.
Yeah, and then like even the shots of her in the bar, you know, like the camera's doing like all
freaking out, rubbing her face.
And everybody in the club is just kind of like either ignoring her or laughing at her until Strange and Samantha show up, and they quickly realize that like she's in distress and this is a bad situation for her. And because they're good hippies that like take care of other people,
they're decent people.
Yeah, they escort her out of the bar, and then we just cut to, or we actually cut to like later on, back at DeRay's lab, and we've got a pretty good like science lab scene here with like lots of lights and sparks.
We've got a stationary science wheel, but I'm accepting it.
Yeah, I put the same thing. DeRay and Dracula revive the Frankenstein monster.
Okay, now what kind of bullshit is this, by the way? Because they chalk up like him coming back to life because of this fucking comet. They're like, the monster was brought to life when a comet flew overhead during a thunderstorm. It's like, why? Why did we need it that complicated? Why could we not just have a thunderstorm?
Yeah, and they're like, it's a good thing that same comet is here tonight or whatever, and then it's never mentioned again.
Never, nothing to do with it. You know what the fucking comet effect is? It's basically somebody with a small little strobe light of a fucking comet. Like, it's the worst.
Yeah, it's so goofy. Yeah, so the creature wakes up, and you know, like we said, this is probably the worst creature makeup I think we've seen. We've seen
rough.
a lot of janky makeup jobs.
It's just straight up a foam head on a guy.
Yeah, it's like that you need that foam in a can that you spray when there's like a gap in your insulation or something.
This monster has the chubbiest cheeks.
Yeah. DeRay is like, Dr. Beaumont, tonight you're gonna meet an old friend. Ha ha ha.
Exactly. By the way, Dracula's fucking stone cold. because we get the shot of Beaumont getting into the car, and then he turns and boom, Dracula. And the guy's obviously freaked out, and he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, just keep driving, doctor. Oh, okay. I'm going to do that with a weird guy in my car, and I'm not just going to get out and run.
And like he just drives a little bit, and suddenly there's like in the headlights you just see like a man running towards them, and as he gets closer you see it's the Frankenstein monster.
Right. And then of course Dracula's just like, you should get out of the car, doctor. And he does it. He just fucking does it. This Dracula has not hypnotized anybody yet.
Yeah, like this would make sense if they'd done any kind of effect to show that he was glamored, but they have not. But yeah, so he gets out of the car, and then the Frankenstein monster just chokes him out and just kills him there in the street.
We ain't got time or money for that effect. Just choking.
So then we cut to what's up with Judith after being, rescued from the club. She wakes up in like an unfamiliar kind of beach house.
With a random guy with a turtleneck and shark tooth necklace.
Yeah.
What a fucking accessory.
Yeah, that feels like that was like a big thing, like with beach people. I mean, I guess maybe around beach stuff, it's still a big thing. Like if you go to Myrtle Beach, you can probably buy a shark tooth necklace now.
But that's because Myrtle Beach hasn't stepped out of the 80s. Oh, anyway. But yeah, this is Mike.
Yeah, and she's like, what happened to me? And he's like, you were drugged. Probably you were asking a lot of questions at the bar. Probably somebody thought you were a cop and they were trying to get rid of you. Mm-hmm. And then he admits to her that he knew Joni, but that he hasn't seen her in a while. And like in direct contrast to everything that Sergeant Martin said about hippie culture, Mike's like, we kind of have our own culture, we have our own society that we just kind of like, they're not off the grid, but they're almost off the grid.
Right. We take care of each other, we're a small community, all that good stuff.
And we protect each other from outsiders. But he says Joni had this strange obsession with sort of divergent, like I can't remember exactly how he describes it, but like she would spend a lot of time at DeRay's exhibit because she was obsessed with like the freakish and
Right.
strange and like
Mike said she actually had dreams about being literally, quote unquote, a freak, whatever that means, with 2 heads, 1 eye, and an elongated spine. But somehow that turned her into something beautiful. So she's goth right before goth became a thing.
Yeah, she spent all her time at Dr. DeRay's Creature Emporium, and Judith is like, that doesn't sound like the Joni that I knew at all. This is very strange.
Right. It's not like she just ran out and joined a hippie commune for no fucking reason. Judy, I think maybe you didn't know your sister as well as you thought.
Yeah. Mike's like, well, let's go check out the exhibit, and maybe that will make some connection for you. Maybe we can figure something out. And Strange and Samantha pop in at that time, so they kind of like go on a little double date.
Yeah. And I like when they actually get to the door of DeRay's Monster Emporium, that Judy's like, oh, this is just kind of a lame carnival. It's like, they told you that. That's the whole point of this thing.
Yeah. And there's a really weird joke in this, like, as they're headed to the Emporium. Doctor Strange.
Dr. Strange, yep.
Strange says to Mike, he's like, don't let them take me.
Right, don't let them, Mike says something about they're going to cast an enchantment on you or something. I won't let them cast an enchantment. Something like that, right?
Yeah, and Sam's like, what about me? And Strange is like, well, you know how to go invisible. And she's like, only from the waist down.
Which, that's fucking weird. What does that mean?
Yeah, like, if it's a sexual innuendo, I do not know how it is. Like, your clothes being invisible, maybe, but, like, if your body's invisible from the waist down, you're just a weird floating...
You're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, so I don't know what she was going for there, but it felt like it was supposed to be a joke.
Yep, it was an anti-joke for sure.
But yeah, in the Emporium, DeRay's not there this time at first, but they just hear recordings of him kind of like leading them through the tour.
Yeah.
But we do see that Dracula is in there. He's just hiding out behind pillars watching them.
Alright, so I don't know if the actor fucked up or if this was intentional, but he was literally rolling his eyes in between takes. So it's like, did he have like contacts in that bothered him, or did he think the director was being a dumbass? Like, why was this Dracula rolling his eyes so much?
Yeah, like sarcastic Dracula is not what we usually see.
I love a sarcastic Dracula though.
But at that point, I think DeRay does end up coming out, and Judith asks him about Joni. And he's like, a lot of people come through here. I don't recognize her at all.
Right. And they immediately call his bluff. They're like, bullshit.
Yeah, like as soon as he leaves, Judith's like, that was very suspicious.
You think, right?
Yeah. And then we just, like, as they're leaving, they're all kind of like in an alley, and Rico and his gang appear.
Well, can we talk about how Strange is like, ooh, there's a tire. That is art. Which is also kind of a hippie joke, right? It means something. Everything means something.
Right. You just don't get it, man.
Right. And he decides he's going to roll the tire, and that's when, as you said, Rico and his neo-Nazi group show up.
Yeah, one of the dudes definitely just straight up has a Nazi armband on.
Yeah, the other guy has an iron cross on his back. So it's like, these are bad people.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess that's better than, we've seen weird Nazi stuff show up in other movies on characters that weren't as villainous.
Right.
Here, we're supposed to hate Rico and his gang, so sure, throw a swastika on, and that's fine. Whatever. They're definitely trying to kidnap Samantha.
Yeah, Samantha used to be Rico's girl.
Mm-hmm. This is, again, kind of like, it seems like either Rico wants to take her back for himself or as like a trafficking victim. It's kind of unclear, but yeah, either way, he's wanting to take her against her will to do things with her. So just, bad situation. But thankfully, the police arrive, like a police car pulls up at the end of the alley, and Rico and company, like, jump on their motorcycles and speed off. Hey,
it looks like Sergeant Martin actually showed up to do something. Except he didn't. He just showed up to be a pain in their ass.
Yeah, he's just still shitty. He says something like, I'm not here to help you all. Like, Samantha can take care of herself.
Right. And of course he's like, you shouldn't be here. I know everything there is about this part of town. This is my part of town. Which, okay, buddy. Sure you do. I believe you.
Yeah, and, Judith asks if he knows anything about Dr. DeRay then, and he's like, I'm not telling you anything.
Right.
You need to stay out of this. I'm the cop. You're just a citizen.
Which, to be fair, that is correct, but also they're doing shit. Mm-hmm. So,
Then we got Mike and Judith going for a walk on the beach. It's definitely like he thinks they're on a date, and she's like, you're really nice, and I really appreciate everything you're doing for me, but, like, I don't really want to get involved with anybody right now.
So they start making out about it. Immediately.
Yeah, he's like, that's fine, we can just be good friends, and then, start making out. So,
right.
Friends with benefits, I guess.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
And then that just immediately cuts to back down in DeRay's lab. He's working on more experiments.
Groton's mugging right now, making all kinds of faces.
Yeah. So he says that these victims that he's collecting, the serum from, he thinks that this serum will cure him so that he'll be able to get out of the wheelchair. It will cure Groton's, like, weird sort of Mr. Hyde split personality monstrous thing. And I think later on they'll also imply that somehow it might be able to help Grasbo get
taller.
Big?
Yeah.
I guess.
He doesn't need it, but okay.
Yeah. Then, like, Groton starts kind of, like, turning monstrous again, so DeRay has to give him some of the serum.
And he gets pissed at him about it. He's like, damn it, Groton, you're making me use the serum to heal you. Do you know what you're doing, Groton? It's like, he has no control over changing.
Yeah. And that's what you're making the serum for, right?
Right.
It's to help him. So if you're using him to collect all of these bodies, the least you can do is take care of him in the meantime.
Yeah, come on. You got to pay your employees. Damn it.
And then we see a little later, Judith is still with Mike, and she's like, maybe I'm going about this wrong. Maybe I'm, like, hovering around my sister, and that's pushed her away. Maybe I need to give her more freedom.
I promise I'll let Joni do her own thing. Okay, that's great, but where is she?
Yeah, and Mike's like, I think DeRay is up to something. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this. And then it's just like a little later that night, we see there's like a young couple in their car, parking, making out, and the Frankenstein monster appears.
He gives no shits. He's like, he just looks in the window, sees them making out, rips off the fucking door, drags the guy out, then the girl. The guy tries to fight. He just, I guess, kills the guy by slamming him against the car.
Yeah, seems like it.
And just steals the girl away.
And then the police show up, and they just start shooting at him, but it has no effect, and then he
Can we talk about that one cop's thought process? Because he unloads his gun, and then he goes in for a pistol whip. It's like, my dude, you had 6 chances. You hit each time. If that didn't work, I don't think the pistol whip's going to do much.
Yeah, if the 6 bullets don't work, you need to, like, throw the gun at him and run the fuck away.
Treat him like Superman. Throw the gun at him. He'll duck.
But yeah, so then the Frankenstein monster kills all of the police and then just carries the girl away.
Amazing.
And then it's just like a little later, we got Mike and Judith. They are walking around under the pier.
Well, Judy's walking around, then Mike jump scares her.
Oh, right, yeah. And then they happen to stumble upon a secret door leading up. It's like it looks like, like the attic thing. There's like a string hanging down from...
It's very well hidden, except it's not. It's very blatant that this is a trap door to this place overhead, because Mike's even like, we've got to be directly under DeRay's Monster Emporium right now. What's this secret trap door doing here?
And the dumb thing is, they don't go in. They just decide, like, they eventually go in, but they go up onto the pier and go back into the front door instead of trying to sneak in through the secret door.
Right, which... That's very smart. But I love that Mike's like, all right, Judith, I'm going to go in, I'm going to figure this out. You stay out here and you wait for me, which makes sense to a degree, but also buddy system.
Yeah, this is not a situation where, like, because she's not safe by herself either.
Right. Exactly. She's more at risk than he is, probably, but still. And I love that Mike runs into Grasbo, and Grasbo's like, yeah, it's $1 to get in. And Mike's like, I ain't got no time for that. Just jumps over the railing. And Grasbo's like, I'll get you when I get taller.
We also get a scene here with Sam walking on the beach, and Rico's crew finds her, and they start chasing her and just generally just trying to scare her, jumping out behind things and menacing her and everything. And eventually they get her down, and this is leading to a scene of sexual assault. But then again, thankfully, Groton appears with the axe and kills everybody except for Sam and carries her away.
Well, I'm glad that ended when it did.
Yeah, he does. Groton does have a tendency to show up at the right moment and take care of the bad guys.
I mean, even though he is technically a bad guy, he's a good guy.
Yeah. So then we have Judith following behind Mike, and where Grasbo kind of tried to stop Mike, he's just like, "Ha, yeah, go on in, find your friend.
Just go on in."
Yeah. So he's up to no good at this point as well.
Yeah, I guess he figures it's better to have them inside than out.
Yeah, and he kind of just laughs villainously as she's going in. It's
amazing. His villainous laugh is the best. Because he's like, bah!
Yeah, he definitely has a talent for chewing the scenery.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So
then inside, Mike and Judith end up meeting up again, and they are kind of exploring. They find Joni. She is, still in her glass coffin, and then DeRay pops out and is like, I saved her. Your sister wouldn't even be alive today if it weren't for me.
Right. Mike, of course, gets him with a good stinger of, you're nothing but a collector of humans. And despite being in a wheelchair, you have someone else doing your work. You really got him there, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Oof. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I've chosen the two of you to help me further with my experiments. And then he shows them Sam, who is unconscious on a slab. And, he's like, she fainted from terror at witnessing, when Groton killed the men who were attacking her.
Right, but that somehow gave me a lot of the hormone that we wanted.
So I guess the extended fear that wasn't cut short with death somehow made her...
Yeah, probably Rico helped elevate that, I guess, to a point.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, he's like, this is the final ingredient. Once I get stuff from her, my serum will be complete. Actually, no, he's got one thing beyond that, which is that he needs the blood of someone who witnesses their lover being killed.
Right, so I'm going to have you both watch each other get murdered. Okay, well, that'll do it.
At that point, Groton attacks Mike. Grasbo comes down because, as we said, he's hoping to get some of this serum as well.
Right, and he gets a fucking axe. Grasbo's going to join in on the axe murder.
Yeah, but then he bumps into the puppy cage, which falls through the trap door and hits the beach and breaks open. So then the puppy's running loose.
He falls down. Well, he doesn't fall down the trap door, but he falls he basically is barely holding himself up.
Mm-hmm. And he drops the axe, which falls down and it falls in the sand, sticking one blade face up.
Yeah, so you know where this is going. Do we have to say it? He falls on the axe.
Yeah, he falls face first, and yeah, it's a pretty good effect. It's a good gore gag there. Mm-hmm. So then at that point, DeRay pulls out a gun and just starts shooting just wildly.
He's just like, fuck this shit.
Yeah. And so Mike starts running away, DeRay chasing after him.
He wings Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Gets him in the shoulder. Mike somehow gets him to fire off his he switches up the illusions to where DeRay fires at the mirror image of Mike. Mm-hmm. And then Mike's like, oh, I'm gonna get you, and DeRay's like, nope, fuck off, and speeds off in his wheelchair.
And then he crashes his wheelchair into the guillotine, falls forward onto it, and the blade slams down and decapitates him.
Hell of an end.
Yeah. So again, hoisted by his own petard, literally, he's the decapitator and then is decapitated.
Right. The decapitator has become the decapitated. Damn you, Robespierre.
Yeah. So that was our Chekhov moment.
Right, exactly.
And then Judith goes out a window and Groton follows her. So we've kind of split up at this point. So I guess this building is there's levels to it because they go out a window, but they're now on a rooftop running. Mm-hmm. Groton's chasing Judith, and the police show up. They see this, and Sergeant Martin shoots Groton, and he
Kills
falls
him.
off the building, becomes a dummy,
Right.
smashes into the ground, then turns back into Lon Chaney Jr.
Poor Lon Chaney Jr. He got no lines in this movie. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, he just kind of grunts and groans and everything. But his death, like, they do give this nice little sad moment. Like, he's laying there dying, and the puppy comes and like cuddles up next to his neck and is like licking his face as he dies. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, he deserved better.
Yeah. I feel like Groton, like, he was recruited by a bad guy to do bad things, but I don't think he was necessarily bad. He was just simple-minded and led astray.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then Dracula says, "Fuck this shit. You've ruined everything for me, Judy. So you gotta go."
Yeah. So he like does the hypnotism thing to her, and then ties her to a like railing. Like she's up like on a catwalk, and then the Frankenstein monster appears, and Dracula's basically like, "Get her," So.
And then our boy Mike shows up, and I thought he got a steak. But
I thought the same thing. He pulls like this stick out of the glove compartment of, I think, the police car. And yeah, it's like a stick. And I was like, why do the cops just have a steak? Like, that's convenient to kill a vampire. But no, it's not a steak.
It's a flare.
It's a road flare, which makes a lot more sense.
It does. It really does.
So yeah, he lights the flare and he blinds the Frankenstein monster with it, which causes the monster to just kind of like wildly start attacking and ends up attacking Dracula.
And then God bless Mike. He's putting in so much work. He gets Judith out of the her little bindings and gets her off of the premise. Gets her out into the woods almost, which I didn't know there were woods around here, but apparently there were.
Yeah, this whole like last little bit, it's like they definitely just either their permit at the beach ran out and they're like, well, we can finish the woods, it'll be fine.
Right. It's either someone's property or they were like, okay, we have to go to Northern California now for some reason.
Yeah.
But guess what? It looks like the good guys have gotten away, except now Dracula's finished fighting the monster. The monster's fine, and Dracula's like, all right, what's my long range attack? Hey, I've got this wonderful ring. He fucking blows up Mike.
He does.
Like, that was the most shocking thing I think we've seen.
And it's like earlier, it's like animated fire coming out of the ring, and then just suddenly
Boom.
Animated fire completely covers Mike's body, and then he's just like laying there dead.
Yeah. Fucking wild, man.
And then we just see the Frankenstein monster has picked up Judith, who's unconscious, and he carries her inside like an old church that's out in the woods.
Right, for no reason. Which you would think Dracula would be like, nah, man, that's the one place we don't go.
Right. And so then again, Dracula ties her up and lights like a bunch of candles because you gotta get the atmosphere. It's gotta be nice here. You gotta make this romantic torture scene.
Of course, Dracula's nothing if not dramatic for sure.
Right.
But it looks like the monster is getting some feelings for Judith.
Dracula, I think he says, since you've ruined my plans at the beach, I'm just gonna turn you. So
right.
At least I've got an assistant, like another vampire to help me with things.
I get a net positive out of this.
But like you said, the Frankenstein monster's caught the feelings for Judith, and he's not down with her being turned into a vampire. So we finally get really the title of the movie.
Are you saying Dracula versus Frankenstein? It's a monster fight!
Yeah.
Love it.
And so yeah, they're running around in the forest, fighting. At some point, Dracula's ring gets knocked off, so he's lost his range weapon.
Right, and he's like, oh, if only I had my ring to blow up this monster.
But Dracula is strong. He rips off one of Frankenstein's arms.
Well, he tells him, I'm going to rip you apart piece by piece. And he does so.
Yeah, this has like strong like Monty Python, like Black
It
vibes.
does. It does. I'm going to start with your arms, both of them.
Yeah.
And then the Frankenstein monster just runs around like, it's so goofy. It's so goofy.
Yeah, it's definitely a guy with his arms inside his shirt, just
Right.
running around. And then, he finally Dracula rips off Frankenstein's head. So he has theoretically won, but in the time that this is taken, the sun has come out.
Yeah, the sunlight's come up. So Dracula runs through the forest for it feels like 5 minutes, but I think it was only 2.
Yeah. He's trying to get into somewhere in the shade. doesn't make it, and he just like melts.
He does. And honestly, I will say that in my opinion, this is the best makeup in the whole movie. The whole budget was blown right here.
It really was. And I actually saw, so like, I think Sam Sherman is one of the producers of the movie, and he directed this one scene. So it's like, I wonder what else this guy is the most confident part of the movie.
Right? Like, the actors were fine. The guy playing DeRay was a little bit of a ham. Mm-hmm. But, and then Lon Chaney, I guess they couldn't afford to pay him for speaking lines. I guess. So he's like, I'm on loan from the Actors Union or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, and then, this is it. If not for Grasbo, this is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is, usually when Draculas get hit with sunlight, they'll either explode or they'll turn to dust.
Yeah, or just catch on fire or something like that.
Yeah, but this sort of like melt effect is unique,
It's like it ages him.
Yeah. We haven't seen, we see the occasional Dracula when it gets mixed into our Frankensteins, but we have not come across this effect in anything else yet.
Absolutely. And then looks like just Dracula dies as Judith manages to get out of her bonds. Then she has a just PTSD flashback of everything that happened in the movie.
Yeah, it's like a summary.
Right.
Which it's like, it makes more sense nowadays. It'd be like, if you were looking at your phone for part of this, here's the main plot points.
Right. Well, it's almost like an early version of kind of the quote unquote final girl going crazy, right? Like with what is it, Sally? Is it Hadaway or
Hardesty?
Hardesty, yeah, Sally Hardesty, or
in Texas Chainsaw.
Exactly.
But then she does end up. She finds Dracula's ring on the ground. And picks it up, like as if she's gonna defend herself, which is smart, but Dracula's already dead, so she's fine, and then just drops the ring in the grass and kind of just walks off, and then we get the end. The end.
There you go. And an extremely abrupt ending, because she just drops the ring and like walks off, and then that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, the final girl thing definitely feels accurate. Like everybody else in this movie ends up with a rough end.
Yeah. Poor Mike though. Like, yeah. I feel bad for Grasbo but he was hoisted by his own petard,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Groton, he's not a bad guy, but he's a bad guy.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike was doing the right thing and
just got blown up.
Toasted for you.
Yeah. Damn. That's rough.
That's rough.
Yeah. Love it. So what do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, this movie is goofy as hell, but like if you're going into it wanting that, it's a lot of fun. Like it feels like it's made by people who liked the Universal movies and wanted to do something like it but didn't quite have the budget for it.
Right, that, and they wanted to make it a little edgier because the 70s and 80s would become, all about gore.
Yeah. There's this like, I think it may be apocryphal story. I don't think it's actually true, but there's this story that goes around that like the Ramones wanted to be a Beatles cover band, but they weren't good enough at their instruments, so then they just became the Ramones, and that kind of feels like
right.
What this movie, like we couldn't make a Universal movie, but we could make this kind of weird sloppy thing instead.
And it has its own charm for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not gonna lie though, those first like 15 minutes are kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But everything after that's pretty good.
It definitely starts slow, but once they like wake up the Frankenstein monster, it's pretty much like a wild ride from that point on.
Oh, 100%. Pure octane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the roller coaster. You have to crank up to the top so that you can just spin around for a while.
Right. And honestly, I don't think, like, Mike's death is both hilarious and, like, terrifying. So I guess, like, the fact is that he's the hero. He did everything right. Mm-hmm. And they just got blown up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has this is a very so bad it's good movie.
Yeah. It's one that, like, I would say it's charming.
Yeah.
It's not good, but it's got a big heart, and yeah, it's hard not to love it for that.
All right. Well, where can they find us, Anthony?
Yeah, so you can find us on most of the socials, mainly Twitter and Instagram still. We're keeping our eye on the future of social media.
Who knows?
We're at the Frankencast pretty much wherever you can find, wherever you go. You can also email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also over on YouTube, and you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Heck yeah. Join us anywhere. Any interaction's good interaction. So on and so forth.
Yeah. Yep. Your support, however you can give it, is appreciated. We don't usually say, like, rates and reviews help too. We don't tend to beat that drum, but those are also helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anthony, I mean, we've seen just the regular Dracula versus Frankenstein, but let's get a little bit more erotic. Maybe we could have Dracula, a prisoner of Frankenstein.
Yeah, so this next week, this movie is also sometimes called Dracula versus Frankenstein, so you can kind of see where this little series here. This one is Jess Franco, who's kind of mostly known for like erotic thrillers and stuff, but he made a handful of monster movies as well. This isn't the first movie this is the first movie, but it won't be the last movie we do from him. He's dipped his toe into Frankenstein-y stuff a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to see it. It looks like another So Bad It's Good. So let's find out if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff's super trashy, but it can be fun as long as you're okay with the trash.
Absolutely. All right. Well, in that case, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for